The truth is out there. Knowledge is power. This is the Prepper Podcast Radio Network.
Have you ever wanted to generate your own supply of electrical power, even save money on your electric bill? If so, this is going to be the most important message you will ever hear. Solar power generators are now available. These emergency backup systems provide life-saving electrical power when you need it most. Unlike gas generators, a solar generator runs quietly, emits no fumes, and produces electricity from the sun. It's like having an electric power plant running quietly in your own home. Run sump pumps, shortwave radios, computers, and even keep your food from spoiling. Whether it's hurricanes, ice storms, brownouts, or blackouts, you'll never suffer through painful power outages again. And here's the best news, a remarkable fall truckload sale going on right now that gets you $1,700 in bonuses when you buy a solar generator. To find out why solar generators are the best generators and get $1,700 for doing so, go to falltruckloadsale.com. That's falltruckloadsale.com. Generate your own supply of electricity. Go to falltruckloadsale.com. That's falltruckloadsale.com.
Pioneer Living Survive, a true people publication, and online at www.pioneerliving.net. Here you'll find ideas and tips for people, the new pioneers, homesteaders, survivalists, and preppers who want to get back to basics and work with nature. It's our goal at Pioneer Living to inform as many people as possible with solutions on the forgotten, lost art of basic human survival. Pioneer Living is currently accepting articles for those of you who wish to share stories on the pioneer way of life, including homesteading, survival, gardening, preparedness, and simple back-to-basics living. By visiting pioneerliving.net, you'll learn how to build an open fire pit for cooking, making charcoal, tanning hide, survival food storage, survival canning and preserving, survivalist gardening, organic soil prep, and composting. In these unique and extraordinary times, now is the time to practice a self-sufficient way of life. Find us online at pioneerliving.net and start changing your life today.
The British Medical Journal accused a researcher, Andrew Wakefield, of outright fraud. People need to look at the details and not look at the headlines.
This is like saying the visceral response that they're trying to whip up in the public to try and crush this dissent.
Enough is enough.
If you like the efficiency of the post office, the confidence of FEMA, and the compassion of the IRS, we will love the nationalized health care bill.
Cover up our mistakes. Or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Don't let anybody make you think.
This is KPRN-DB, broadcasting worldwide from Southeast Oklahoma, USA, to parts unknown. This is the Prepper Podcast Radio Network News with your host, James Smith.
And how's everybody doing today? It's James Smith with the Prepper Podcast Radio Network. This is the finance part, I guess you could say financial news. Yeah, I know, it's kind of a lame sound effect, but I hope that makes its point. And can I delete that? Yeah, good, because I've got a sound effect on there I don't want to make a mistake with. All right, so all information provided to you today so that you can make reasonable, rational decisions on how you'll prep for the upcoming issues that we will be discussing. And frankly, I'd rather have disasters because at least they're fixed and not caused by mankind. I have more faith in you than anyone else in the media. Believe it or not, I really do. Now there's lamestream news, right-wing news, and now there's prepper news. News targeted for all preppers. We report current and pending legislation and how it affects you. Learn of potential hazardous weather and disasters before they strike and understand how the economy is forcing you to make tough decisions. This is your news. This is news that you can use. Our Twitter name is @PPRN News, and our blog is, well, you can go to pprnnews.com, but it will automatically go to the prepperpodcast.com. Now, you can listen to our live feed, believe it or not, by going to area code 786-837-2278. 786-837-2278. 837-2278. And that will give you the Prepper Podcast Radio Network live feed, and you can listen 24/7 from the comfort and safety of your phone. Or if you go to prepperpodcast.com or pprnnews.com, you can also listen to the live feed that way. We're going to take a real quick short commercial break, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, we're back. Now this part is all about finances. So let's talk about finances. Now we can't have finances without, believe it or not, taxes. Now John Boehner, who's the current House Majority Leader, has said that raising tax rates are acceptable will put new revenue on the table. Raising taxes is unacceptable to House Speaker John Boehner as he prepares to open negotiations on the looming fiscal cliff with the President and the congressional Democrats. He told World News anchor Diane Sawyer in an exclusive interview. Raising taxes is unacceptable. Frankly, it couldn't pass the House. I'm not sure it can pass the Senate, but I got news for you. This is what we all think about raising taxes. Have fun storming the castle there, Mr. Speaker. All right, I don't want to continue on with that story. It's just too frickin' just depressing as all get out. Oh, here's something even more depressing. Do you like your Big Mac? I like my Big Mac. I also like my Blizzards. Wait, McFlurries. I also like my tater tots, or my chicken nuggets, McNuggets. I like my egg McSandwich. Well, it seems everybody does too. However, not enough people are buying enough because McDonald's didn't make it a profit this last quarter. This is bad news. I remember that I could tell that there was a problem coming down the pipe when I saw that McDonald's had problems getting financing. This is early 2008, before the collapse. This is bad news. So, let's see. Global sales at restaurants open at least a year fell 1.8% for the month. The last time the figure dropped was in 2003. The figure is a key metric because it strips out the impact of newly opened and closed locations. So this is a bellwether. This is something we need to be paying attention to. This is a bad thing, very bad thing. All right, so we know people love taxes, and they're usually called liberals. They never met a dollar they don't want to throw away at a bad project or stick into their own pocket. Really psychotic, if you ask me. Such is life in the French Republic, where unemployment is high, growth is low, and government is big. Since the global recession, the French economy has been on life support, burdened by the suffocating presence of government in the economy and labor laws that reward lethargy, which means being a slug. Thankfully, a new report by former aerospace executive Louis Gallo offers some new medicine. Commissioned by the French President François Hollande, by the way, he's a socialist, the report suggests that France needs some shock therapy to revitalize the economy. Quote from it says, the diagnosis is quite severe, with the decline of the French industry, a decline that has been worsening in the past 10 years as they're getting more and more perks. I suggest 22 main measures. First of all, to stop this decline. Support investment. That is what I call a competitive shock, a confidence shock. This report comes on the heels of a contentious election between Hollande and Merkozy. During the campaign, Hollande promises to increase government spending in the face of the debt crisis and raise taxes on millionaires to 75%, and they actually did. And by the way, do you know where all the millionaires went? To England. They went to the Great Britain. So where's the money then? Talk more about taxes real quick here. So the report must have come something of a shocker to the president, considering his campaign rhetoric. Who would have guessed small government, low taxes, and efficient labor market could lead to growth? Let's talk about this real quick. Okay, so Skippy the Boy Wonder, I wonder how he got into office, wants to raise taxes on those that make more than $200,000. He wants to tax the living daylights out of people. Here's the problem with raising taxes on only the rich. There's other places to go. Yeah? Okay, so if you have high tax rates here, well, maybe they'll go to Canada. Now, it's my understanding that starting January 1, capital controls, which means money leaving the state, is going to be tightened down, to be ratcheted down. That's what Italy did last year. It didn't work. It's not working. So here's the problem. if they're doing this, they're trying to keep the money in the United States, they're trying to keep you from leaving the country, you will do something that's known as going galt. You will say, no more. You will become John Galt. Freak out your friends. Look at them and say, who is John Galt? To be quite honest with you, I think that's a phrase that will be coming more and more and more heard. Who is John Galt? If you have not read Atlas Shrugs, I suggest you take a moment and, well, actually, take a couple days and read it. It's a really good book, and you will see so many similarities. There's a movie. There's part 1. There's part 2 of Atlas Shrugged. It's full version. If you see it on video, rent it, whatever, and watch it. All right, one more story before the break. The article is this: the battle intensifies for Obamacare. Obamacare is not here to stay. Despite the 2012 election, the assumption that the health care law will stay on course is another example of the left's wishful thinking. By the way, this comes from the Heritage Foundation. Of course, efforts for a complete repeal will likely face the same fate as efforts in the last Congress did, but there are ample reasons as well as opportunities to change the course of this law. Public opinion has not changed. Exit polls shows that Americans still want the law repealed in full or in part. So that's a good thing. Now, Pelosi was absolutely right when she said in 2010 that we have to pass the bill so you can find out what's in it, which should have been like warning bells to a lot of people. The law has already become a managerial nightmare as administration officials have missed deadline after deadline, failing to provide crucial information, doubtlessly to avoid further political fallout from exposing their controversial plans, such as the contraceptive mandate undermining religious freedom, or because overhauling 1/6 of the economy is riddled with innumerable unintended consequences that are nearly impossible to avoid. As these regulatory details emerge, they will generate even more public controversy and create even more practical obstacles for implementation. Naturally, these instances will provide ample opportunities for legislative remedial action. Bipartisan opposition to the law will continue. The states can and have their say. Looming deficits bring health care back to the forefront. Major lawsuits are moving ahead. So, according to the Heritage Foundation, they are optimistic that there will not be a Obama health care law for much longer. One more story before a break. How many businesses have announced closings or layoffs since Obama won a second term? And this is, I want to say, is from I'm taking a look. I think this is actually from Heritage as well. Oh, it's the Blaze. Okay. So that's a good question because I know that there was one firm that said that if he wins, if he loses, I'll hire 100 people. And then I know Lockheed Martin's laying off 123,000 just before Christmas. Thank you, Mr. Obama, you piece of crap. Now, Energizer is laying off about 1,500 people. Westinghouse is firing 50 people. Research in Motion Limited, they're the ones who make BlackBerry, 200 people. Lightyear Network Solutions, 12 employees. The Providence Journal company laid off 23 full-time employees Wednesday as part of cost-cutting efforts, including 16 members of the Newspaper Guild and 7 non-union employees. Hawker Beechcraft, now they're the ones that make airplanes, 240. Boeing, 30% of their management staff. CVPH Medical Center, 17 employees. Let's see. U.S. Cellular, 980 jobs in 640 in the Chicago area, and so the rest over the nation. Momentive Performance Materials, 150 workers. They'll be temporarily laid off. Rocketdyne, 100. They're the Pratt Whitney. Brake Parts, that's BARKE Parts, 75, starting in late December. Vestas Wind Systems, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, that's a wind energy company. Husqvarna, making the chainsaws, 600 jobs. Center for Hospice and Palliative Care plans to temporarily lay off as many as 40 employees next year. Bristol Myers Squibb is 480. Let's see. Scanner equipment provider Oast North America will lay off 135. Darden Restaurants is workers to only 28 hours per week. West Ridge Mine, 204. Oh, I'm sorry. They're having to shut down plants. They're closing down 204 plants by 2014 because of his economic policies. United Blood Services Gulf South region will lay off 10% of its workforce. So who else is laying off? Caterpillar, Mount Pleasant, Albrecht Century Foods, the Target store in Manassas Mall, Virginia, Millennium Academy, Wake Forest, Target closing, Kissimmee, Florida. So Target, I guess, is closing. The Andover Gift Shop in Andover, Mass. The Grand Union Family Materials, Movie Scene, Milford, TE Connectivity closing Greensboro plant. That's 620. Gomer's Fried Chicken in South Kansas City. Kmart in Homer Glen. Fresh Market in Pine Street, Burlington. AGC Glass North America's permanent closing its Blue Ridge plant in Kingsport. The Target store at Platte and Academy in Colorado Springs. The Rose's store in Reynolds Road in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Meander's Kitchen losing its West Seattle location. Boast Harley-Davidson at 46th Avenue North and Delaware Avenue in West Nashville, Tennessee. Townsend Booksellers in Oakland. The Kmart store in Parkway Plaza and University in Durham, North Carolina. And there's a web page you need to go to. It's dailyjobcuts.com. We're going to take a break. Be back in 30. Alrighty, we're back. Now, here's this nice little article I found. House GOP moving to repeal Obamacare tax on states without health insurance exchanges. So they've taken a new strategy in their fight to get rid of Obamacare, using an expedited legislative procedure to upend targeted parts of the law. Roll call reports that Republican representatives Darrell Issa and Scott DeJarlis will back a resolution to nullify the upcoming IRS rule authorizing the distribution of subsidies through tax credits in every state as an incentive to get most Americans to buy insurance. Michael Cannon of the Cato Institute writes that the rule unlawfully taxes employers and individuals in the over 30 states that have not yet created their own health insurance exchanges as part of the 2010 law. Republican leaders are preparing to launch the effort to repeal the rule during the post-election session that begins November 13th. Hey, that's Monday, Tuesday. Path to derail Obamacare. So you're not seeing a total dismemberment and disbowling of this stupid law, but people are trying. Hang in there. So you are not a genius, but you're smarter than people on TV, believe it or not. I'm not I may be a genius, I don't know. Actually I do, but I am. But the good folks at CNBC said, we're probably headed for another recession. Notice they said that after the election. 2 days after the election, CNBC published a Dow report on the economy. Shockingly, they're reporting it's headed for another recession. Old news, yawn. Okay. Greece says cash reserves are almost depleted. Now, this is a funny thing. One of the things that I can do on the website is I can see where people come from because I'm really curious. I want to say that, yes, the sun never sets on the Prepper Podcast Radio Network. And this is true. Earlier today, somebody from Thessalonica, Greece, read this story. They skipped their news sources and came to us to get this particular story. Greece says cash reserves almost depleted. Greece is fast running out of cash while it awaits the next tranche of its 130 billion euro international bailout that keeps it afloat. The deputy finance minister said on Friday, the situation with the state's cash reserve is borderline, says Deputy Finance Minister Christos Statokouros told a conference the fact creates a condition of asphyxiation in the economy. Athens is considered rolling over 5 billion euros in treasury bills when they mature next week due to a likely delay in receiving the 31.5 billion euro tranche, finance ministry's officials told Reuters early on Friday. Now, If you want a really good example on what not to do, you follow Greece. If you want to learn what you need to do in order to, beat bailouts, the bankers, and things like this, talk to Iceland. Yeah, they got their butts handed to them. Here you go. Here's your cheeks. But they came back. They jailed the bankers. They jailed legislators who let this happen. That's like us jailing Barney Frank and Chris Dodd, which Chris Dodd, by the way, does need to be jailed because he's pretty much a putz. And I take that as, yeah, he's a putz. And if you know what a putz is, it's kind of like a schmuck. So something that was found in Heritage Foundation. Chinese imports create U.S. jobs and help the poor. I'm just going to read the first couple paragraphs. Maybe you can get the flavor of the idea here. The recently concluded presidential campaign contained a substantial amount of China bashing from two candidates fighting over who would be tougher on trade. In reality, getting tough on trade would mean getting tough on poor people and destroying U.S. jobs. A working paper from the University of Chicago scholars Christian Broda and John Romales concludes that imports from China have reduced income inequality by lowering the price of products consumed by poor people in the U.S. So basically, it's whoever's the cheapest crack dealer that gets the business. So if you have expensive crack, let's say $100 an ounce crack, it's really good crack, okay, and only the rich can buy it. But the Chinese came in with their $1 an ounce crack. And so the poor people, those that can't afford the $100 crack, are buying the $1 crack. See how it works? Consumerism. It's a beautiful thing. So I can understand their concept here. Then we will end for tonight. So where's the break? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some bad news. Do you like your coffee in the morning? Well, climate change could kill off all the prize Arabica plants by 2080. This comes from the Canadian Broadcast News. A cup of morning coffee could be much harder to find and much more expensive before the century is out, thanks to climate change and the possible extinction. This is bad news, people, of wild Arabica beans. That's the warning behind the new study by UK and Ethiopian researchers who say the beans that go into 70% of the world's coffee could be wiped out by 2080. Okay, stand by for a lesson here, folks. Researchers at the Royal Botanic Gardens in Kew and the Environment of Coffee Forest Forum in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, looked at how climate change might make some land unsuitable for Arabica plants, which are highly vulnerable to temperature change and other dangers, including pest and disease. Well, there's a high risk of extinction, according to the study. Now, these plants grow best between 18 and 21 Celsius, which is like 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Above that, the plants ripen too quickly, which affects taste, grow too slowly. Other coffee stems from Robusta beans. All right. This is not a big deal. Real simple. It's called adaptation. Plants will adapt to their environment. Different ways of farming can actually alter the landscape's temperature. The problem is when these plants are planted, they're right in the open, but believe it or not, if you put some shade up, use that cloth, the black cloth, for 4 hours a day in the heat of the day, for example, it will actually lower the temperature and make it more tolerable. Basically, if you're going to do nothing, they will go extinct. If you do a little hybridization, like where we get our chickens, for example, if you look at your standard Rhode Island Red, well, it's undergone some crosses. It's got hybrids. I have they're called Golden Reds. So it's one breed plus the Rhode Island Red. It's tolerable to heat and cold, much better than either of them. And I get these monster eggs. So I think they can do a little hybridization and they can actually improve the quality of the beans. This is nothing more than a climate scare story. Oh my God, it may happen. Well, if May was all you needed to convict somebody of a crime, OJ would still be in prison for the murder of his wife. The models assume intact natural vegetation, whereas the highland forests of Ethiopia and South Sudan are highly fragmented due to deforestation. Pest, disease, and other factors were also not considered. So there's a lot of problems. They don't know what they're doing. All right, so let me news@pprnnews.com and tell me if you like it. If I don't get any feedback, then I'm talking. I'll expand what I'm doing. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen.